A girl pretends to be poor to test her boyfriend, and what he does will surprise you. Claire Evans stood at the window of her modest apartment, watching the rain splatter against the glass. Her heart felt heavy as she considered the challenge she was about to undertake. She had everything: wealth, a promising future, and a loving boyfriend, or so she thought. But lately, doubt had crept into her mind. Was Daniel truly in love with her, or was it the life she could provide that he was drawn to? Claire had grown up in a world of privilege. Her father, the CEO of a major tech company, had provided her with every luxury imaginable. From designer clothes to exclusive vacations, Claire never wanted for anything. Yet despite her wealth, she was determined to live a grounded life. She had worked hard to earn a degree in social work, choosing a path far removed from her family's corporate empire. It was in the middle of her journey to forge her own identity that she met Daniel, a charming, ambitious man who seemed to adore her. At first, their relationship was everything Claire had hoped for. They laughed together, explored new cities, and shared their dreams for the future. But as their romance deepened, Claire began to notice small things that made her uneasy. Daniel was always eager to attend events with her at high-end restaurants, always marveled at her penthouse apartment, and never hesitated to praise her luxurious lifestyle. It wasn't that he was overtly materialistic, but Claire couldn't shake the feeling that his affection for her might be tangled up with her wealth. The thought gnawed at her until one evening, as they sat at a candlelit dinner at one of the most expensive restaurants in town, she asked herself a question she'd been avoiding for weeks. Would Daniel love her if she had nothing? The question stayed with her, and Claire knew there was only one way to find out. She needed to test him, to see how he would react if she presented herself as someone with far less than the opulent life she actually led. It wasn't a decision she made lightly, but Claire was determined. She needed to know the truth. That night, Claire made up her mind. She would pretend to be poor, to hide her wealth, and to create a scenario where Daniel would have to choose her for who she truly was, not what she could offer. Over the next week, Claire carefully crafted her plan. She rented a small, run-down apartment on the other side of town, one that couldn't have been more different from the elegant space she usually lived in. The walls were peeling, the furniture was sparse, and the neighborhood was a far cry from the upscale district she called home. She traded in her designer clothes for thrift store finds, simple jeans and plain sweaters that didn't hint at her real lifestyle. She even borrowed an old car from a friend, far removed from the sleek luxury vehicle she usually drove. Claire knew it would be difficult, but she needed to make the experience feel as real as possible for both of them. She told Daniel that her father's business had hit hard times and that her family had lost everything. She explained that she would be moving to a smaller apartment and cutting back on luxuries for a while, hoping that he would understand. Daniel seemed concerned at first, but quickly reassured her that he didn't care about her financial situation. He claimed that it was her heart, not her wallet, that had drawn him in. Yet as the days passed, Claire couldn't help but notice subtle changes in Daniel's behavior. He no longer seemed as enthusiastic about spending time with her. The dinner dates that had once been a weekly occurrence stopped altogether. Instead, Daniel suggested they take it easy and spend more time at her new apartment, which now felt cramped and uncomfortable compared to their usual haunts. Claire couldn't tell if it was because he was adjusting to her new financial reality or if something deeper was changing between them. A few weeks into her experiment, Claire invited Daniel over to her new apartment for dinner. She had prepared a simple meal, something far from the gourmet dishes they were used to. As he walked through the door, Daniel's eyes swept over the small living room, lingering on the faded couch and the old television. "This place is cozy," he said, though Claire could hear the hesitation in his voice. She smiled, trying to brush off the awkwardness. "It's a bit of an adjustment, but I'm getting used to it." Daniel nodded, but throughout the evening, Claire noticed that he seemed distracted, his phone constantly buzzing with messages. At one point, he excused himself to take a call, and when he returned, the tension between them had grown even thicker. "Is everything okay?" Claire asked, genuinely concerned. "Yeah," Daniel replied quickly, though his tone was flat. "It's just, I guess I didn't realize how much this whole thing would change." Claire felt a knot form in her stomach. Was he referring to their relationship or her financial situation? She wanted to press him, to ask what he really meant, but she held back. Instead, she decided to continue the experiment, hoping that Daniel's true feelings would reveal themselves in time. The next few weeks were a blur of confusion and doubt. Daniel's visits became less frequent, and when they did spend time together, he seemed increasingly distant. He no longer talked about the future with the same excitement. He made vague excuses whenever Claire suggested doing anything outside of her apartment, and his once constant compliments about her charm and beauty had all but disappeared. Then one evening, everything changed. Claire had invited Daniel over for dinner once again, hoping to reconnect and reignite the spark that seemed to be fading. She spent the afternoon preparing his favorite dish and even picked up a bottle of wine, something she hadn't been able to afford during her impoverished state. As the hours passed and Daniel still hadn't shown up, Claire's heart sank. She tried calling him, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Worry turned to frustration, and frustration turned to heartbreak as she realized that Daniel wasn't coming. The next day, she confronted him. They met at a cafe, one of the few places they still frequented together. Daniel sat across from her, his eyes avoiding hers. "Why didn't you come last night?" Claire asked, her voice trembling slightly. Daniel sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, Claire, I've been thinking a lot lately, and I don't know if this is working out." Claire's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" He hesitated, then finally met her gaze. Things have changed. You've changed. Ever since this whole money situation, it's like you're a different person. I don't know if I can handle it." Claire felt a wave of disbelief wash over her. "So you're saying that because I don't have the same lifestyle as before, you don't want to be with me?" Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "It's not just that. It's everything. I didn't sign up for this. I thought we were building something together, but now I don't even know where we're headed." For a moment, Claire was speechless. She had expected some difficulty during the experiment, but she hadn't anticipated that Daniel would be so quick to abandon her when things got tough. "You didn't sign up for this?" Claire repeated, her voice tinged with anger. "What exactly did you sign up for, Daniel? Was it me, or was it the life I could give you?" Daniel's face flushed. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" Claire countered, "because from where I'm standing, it seems like you were more interested in my money than in me." The silence between them was deafening. Finally, Daniel stood up, avoiding her gaze. "I'm sorry, Claire. I just can't do this anymore." And with that, he walked out of the cafe, leaving Claire sitting there, her mind racing with a mix of anger, sadness, and relief. A week passed, and Claire found herself reflecting on everything that had happened. The pain of losing Daniel was still fresh, but in a strange way, she felt lighter, free from the doubt that had plagued her. The experiment had revealed the truth, and though it hurt, Claire was grateful for the clarity. Then one afternoon, as she sat in her office, her phone buzzed with an unexpected message. It was from Daniel. "Claire, can we talk? I've been thinking about everything, and I made a huge mistake." Claire stared at the message, her emotions swirling. She had spent days wondering if Daniel would come to his senses, if he would realize that what they had was worth more than material wealth. But now, as she looked at his words on the screen, she realized something important. She didn't need him to validate her worth. She had her answer. That evening, Claire met Daniel at the park where they had shared so many happy moments together. He looked nervous, his usual confident demeanor replaced by uncertainty. "I've been an idiot," Daniel began, his voice earnest. "I was scared, and I let that fear ruin something good. I don't care about the money. I care about you. Can we start over?" Claire took a deep breath, her heart pounding. She wanted to believe him, to believe that he had learned his lesson, but she also knew that trust, once broken, wasn't easily repaired. "Daniel," she said softly, "I appreciate what you're saying, but I can't go back. I needed to know if you loved me for who I am, not what I have, and when things got hard, you walked away." He opened his mouth to protest, but Claire held up her hand. "I'm not angry anymore. I need to move on. I need to be with someone who sees me, just me and loves me for that. I'm sorry. Daniel's face fell, but he nodded, understanding in his eyes. I get it, he said quietly. I hope you find that. Claire smiled sadly. I hope you do too. As she walked away, Claire felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had tested Daniel, and while the outcome wasn't what she had hoped for, it had given her the clarity she needed. She knew now that love wasn't about what you could give or take. It was about seeing someone for who they truly were, and loving them despite everything. Claire Evans had finally found the answer she'd been searching for. Claire learned a valuable lesson, that true love goes beyond material wealth, and it's about who you are as a person. Though the test didn't go as planned, it opened her eyes to what truly mattered. Sometimes, it's better to walk away and find someone who loves you for who you are, not what you can provide. If you liked this story, be sure to like and subscribe. Until the next one.